Good evening, chat. Hell, hold on. Good evening. Okay, I thought I was echoing through my monitor there. Good evening, chat. Hello, and I know some of you might be looking back here real quick. Yeah, the freaking varnish on this thing turned it all like black, so it's like a lot darker than it should be. So I'm gonna have to repaint that. So that's it right there. Anyways, chat. The Chuki show says a minute late. I started at 7:35, so that's what matters. We started on time. You know, some of you guys have the logic of, well, the airplane, it departs at 7:35. It must land at that time. No, we left the gate 7:35. On time. On time. So, anyways, guys, welcome to the Wednesday night show. It's Wednesday already. Whoa. That's the only neat thing about these 4-day weeks, but it's like it's already Labor Day already, and it's like, ugh. And it's crazy because today it was like 80 degrees. It's like 85 degrees here. And I'm like, why couldn't we have this over Labor Day weekend? It was like 60 the whole time. So anyway, yeah, welcome to the show. We are getting into the response from the defendants in the Stuttering John lawsuit, Shuli and Karl from WATP. Now, I know a lot of people at first we're like, oh, this is some gay Dabbleverse shit. And I mean, like, yes, the Dabbleverse's foundational principle is that Stuttering John is a fucking nincompoop. Like, he's an absolute tool. Like, that's the basis of it. And yeah, Stuttering John is a tool, and that's kind of where everything blooms from there. It's the wellspring. Will I be covering the Ding Dong Ditch thing? Yes, tomorrow night. Tomorrow night, Thursday night show. This is Baba Booey, yeah. Well. And here's the thing. You guys may not like it because of the Dabbleverse, but I will tell you, just reading through this is a well-drafted complaint, and it's actually very well done. It's that's more of what this is about here. It's more about laughing at the people involved and what's going on than really caring about them or who they are. But there's a lot here to look at. And the response, the answer from Karl and Shuli is actually very well written. I was very impressed with this. Yes, I was once on. I dabbled in the Dabbleverse once with Chad Zumach, A-logging Ray DeVito. That was good enough. Once was good enough. It's like when I took 2.0 during COVID. We were watching fireworks of the 4th of July, and there was like a gang shooting at the intersection, like about 100 yards ahead of us. I'm like, that's good enough. That's good enough. We're fatigued enough right now. So we're fatigued enough. So is Aaron M. Holton Steel Toe part of the Dabbleverse? Yeah. And it's like, I know they're gonna there's like the hack versus Dabbleverse thing, but that's like, Mexicans versus Hondurans. Like, it is there really I mean, they know there's a difference, but to the average person walking down the street, is there really a difference between them? Not really. So that's the thing there. Aaron claims he's not, but he is. Yeah. Now, if you guys don't remember, we're gonna go through just some of these real quick, just so you guys remember who's who. Let's see here. Where is? So you guys don't remember, this is Stuttering John. He used to work on Howard Stern's show. Honestly, that's the only place I remember him from. Supposedly he was on Leno. I don't know. Nobody really. Who the fuck watched Leno? I mean, really, like, that was some boomer shit. Anyways, he was on Leno, and he does stand up, and he's kind of just a toolbox. And he's suing. Let me see if I can bring them up here. Hold on. He's suing Shuli and Karl. You guys have seen these people before. And if you haven't, I really doubt that you haven't seen these guys before, but we'll just bring them up. This is Shuli. He's part of the Dabbleverse. He runs the Shuli Network. That's his YouTube channel. And they just A-logged the shit out of Stuttering John, which, You know, he's a guy worthy of A-logging, but like that is, like I said, the Dabbleverse is built on A-logging Stuttering John. It's like their foundation. So Shuli actually used to be on Howard Stern as well, but he was on Howard Stern long after Stuttering John was there. And unlike Stuttering John, Shuli was actually like an integral part of the show, not just pissing off the guest. And then if you guys know Karl's the guy from Who Are These Podcasts? They always have the Tukey guy on, you know, it's kind of like if Grover got jaundice. It's like if Grover got hepatitis from Oscar the Grouch and he got jaundiced really bad and his skin turned yellow. But anyways, that's Tukey. I don't know who the green gummy guy is, but anyways, that's Karl in the middle. And they're part of the Dabbleverse too. But they're also, not only do they A-log Stuttering John, but they A-log the shit out of Aaron on Steel Toe. And then one of the big things, guys, there were some phone calls that Stuttering John alleged they recorded illegally and they used to embarrass him at their, you know, kind of like there's Hackamania. They did a DabbleCon, and the DabbleCon was all about Stuttering John. So they had actually went out to L.A., and somebody had retrieved parts of his couch. And they brought it back to DabbleCon in Rochester, New York. And ultimately, it was an A-logging festival. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's an A-logging festival. Stuttering John was the guest. You could say guest of honor, I guess. I don't know how you want to pronounce it or how you'd like to look at it. But that is totally where they were. That is totally how that was set up. So, Stuttering John sued him. We went over the lawsuit. I told you guys it was hot garbage. Well, there was a response by Karl and Shuli. And like I said, it's very well done. And I think it addresses a lot of legal issues, I think, that are ones that we've mentioned before. And I just think it's really good. It's really good how everything's presented. So that's why we're going to do this tonight. And now remember, this is all filed in New York state level courts. This is not filed in the Southern District of New York, or the Eastern, or the Western, or Northern Districts of New York. This is only in state court here. So, Master Bredlow says, what's so interesting about Stuttering John to be A-logging him? He's really just really fucking cringe. And he's really retarded. That's why. And he really tries to pump up the idea that I was on Howard Stern. It's like, you were like the bumbling oaf that Howard Stern had on his show. But he goes around and like he books comedy gigs saying, I was on Stern. And people who really don't realize him might go, oh, wow, this guy was on Howard Stern. We should go buy tickets and watch. He's a big tool. He's a big tool. So I hope that answers your question there. Stuttering John was every boomer on the internet's first lolcow. That's actually a pretty good way to look at it. For a lot of guys, a lot of boomers on the internet, Stuttering John was like the first lolcow for them. So, Airphone says, "We got tits on the radio, Robin." Oh, yes. I Googled myself. Yeah, Stern. Well, Stern, I think they're closing down Howard Stern as they go. Anyway, let's get going. Let's get going on this. And also, guys, if you don't understand, the Dabbleverse is also kind of like a lot of the ONA fans and shit kind of came over from that way too. Because you see, like Anthony Cumia goes on with Karl and those guys. So there's like a bleed over from the Stern and Opie and Anthony worlds. And I knew, like, I listened to Opie and Anthony a lot, but I never really listened to Howard. So, but let's start. It's a Supreme Court. Remember, guys, Supreme Court means state level court. It is the county level. So it's where you would try a civil case or if you're charged with felony. So like Donald Trump was tried in the Supreme Court of the state of New York, in the county of New York. Remember, guys, New York County is Manhattan Island. So this is in Manhattan. This is, you know, the biggest place you try this. Sure, the Southern District of New York. And it's Stuttering John versus Karl and then Shuli. And then remember, we talked about this before. They're suing the Shuli Network, and then Who Are These Podcasts? Remember what I said. This is just like Russell Greer suing Kiwi Farms, comma, a website. That doesn't mean anything. They are non-legal entities, and that's going to get addressed here. So what is this? It's an affirmation in support of a motion to dismiss, and they're citing a bunch of civil rules and law here. And anyways, they have Danny Savalos, or I'm assuming Savalos, I don't know. He's an attorney practicing in the state of New York here, and he brings forward these statements are true under the penalty of perjury and pursuant to New York civil law. And he says, I'm the attorney for Karl and Shuli. Now, we've brought this up before with like the Destiny case. Having multiple parties represented by one attorney can be a conflict of interest. This isn't one of those times where Shuli and Karl are going to turn on each other. Number one, the lawsuit's bullshit. But number two, they clearly were acting together the whole time. They aren't really going to be able to turn on each other. I don't see that being a conflict of interest here. Now, like, theoretically, could there be a conflict if Stuttering John's attorney had gone ahead and offered like a settlement offer to one, but not the other? Yeah, that puts their attorney in a bind because now he's got confidential information. Like, you have to maintain confidence, and trying to waive confidence and waive conflict like that, is that really a non-waivable conflict? I don't know. But ultimately, there's going to be no traditional conflict in the sense of Karl and Shuli are going to start pointing at each other saying like, no, it's all his fault. You're not going to have that here. Not like the Destiny case. And as in any basically affidavit or statement, I'm familiar with the facts and circumstances herein. And he points out all of what's going here. They want a motion to dismiss the First Amendment complaint. You'll see it called the FAQ. They want mandatory cost and fees. They want an expedited decision, meaning judge, like, let's get on this. And a stay of the proceedings, meaning we want everything to be on hold until you make a ruling here. And ultimately, there's really, I don't know about New York specifically, but generally, there's a motion to dismiss. Everything stayed in the meantime anyway, because this is a massively dispositive motion that could affect the outcome of the case. So they talk about the table of contents here. And guys, you remember, some of you might say this looks different than what your state covers or things we covered. Remember, every state is different. Every state is different. So they talk about the grounds, then the grounds for the motion, the grounds for dismissal. And yeah, they've got a lot here. Look at this. I mean, look at all these points. Boom, 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 boom. Like, just keeps going. Now they talk about this here. These are exhibits that are submitted in support of this motion. So we have some exhibits to look at. We'll get to those as we get going here. And yes, while typically a motion to dismiss does not include extrinsic evidence, this motion is made pursuant to a different part of the statute. And you can dismiss because the defense is founded upon documentary evidence. So normally when you have a motion to dismiss, you're limited to the four corners of the paper that you file. You're generally not allowed to introduce extrinsic evidence, meaning evidence outside is extrinsic. But here you can. And this is for documentary evidence. And that's evidence that, just like it says, it's documentary in nature. And what does it do here? Well, hold on here. Where was I? Hold on. What was I? Crap, I just lost what I was at. Now, they're challenging under multiple theories to dismiss. And you might notice that's not a motion to dismiss criteria at the federal level. You're correct. Under Rule 12B of the Federal Civil Procedure, it's not there. And for most states, as I told you guys, most states just copy and paste the federal rules. New York doesn't. And New York allows a bunch of motion to dismiss grounds. Now, notice like what a bunch of these are here. It's motions to dismiss. And what can you do? The defense is founded upon documentary evidence. Now, the court does not have the jurisdiction of the subject matter. Okay, well, that's subject matter jurisdiction. That's pretty normal. That's a normal one. The party asserting the cause has not the legal capacity to sue. That's different. This is different. This is different. There's another cause of action pending between the same parties. in any court of any state and any other court of the United States. This is, once again, this is not a typical one. New York has their own. The cause of action may not be maintained because of arbitration and award, collateral estoppel. We're going to get to this one because this is actually very important for this case. Discharge of vacancy, infancy, or other disability in the moving party, payment, release, res judicata. We're going to get to this as well. Statute of limitations or statute of frauds. Now, these are normally defenses you have to raise on your own, but New York, it's an actual place where you can plead. With respect to a counterclaim, it may not be properly interposed in the action, meaning it's just not proper to have a counterclaim here. Okay. The pleading fails to state a cause of action, meaning it fails to state, you fail to state a claim upon which relief can be granted. So that's a normal one. We've seen that before. The court does not have jurisdiction over the defendant, personal jurisdiction, correct. There's no service issue, correct. And the court should not proceed in absence of a person who should be a party. And this is another one. Parties are not joined properly. Now this one here, number 11. Blah. Once again, that's not one we're used to. That's not one we're used to. These are a little different there. So I just thought it's, like I said, guys, this is something, you know, I want you guys, it's a learning point. It's an interesting learning point here that I think you guys need to see. This is how this is set up. That's how this is set up. Now, getting back to this, they talk about here, here are the things. So Exhibit A is the amended complaint itself. Fair enough, that makes sense. You're referring to it. Exhibit B is an affidavit of a guy with an attached video. Says, John's proof he knew she was recording. And we're going to get to that. And then a notice of filing and a link to the Stuttering John video. So, yeah. Apparently, Stuttering John admitted he knew this was all happening, and he did this anyway. Which, is he retarded or is he malicious? I don't know. And remember, it's a fine line at times. Now, here's the thing. As noticed in the requested notice of motion, plaintiff's counsel would not grant the request for an extension of time for moving. They request the affidavits, and they say, if not, the motion may be submitted on this evidence. So they ask for more time, and Stuttering John's attorneys are like, fuck you. Remember I talked to you guys about that, like with the whole Aaron and Nick thing. If you start fighting right off the bat, the court's more sympathetic to letting you guys fight. So you got to be careful. So what are the grounds for the motion? So basic things here. You know, failure to state a claim upon which relief can be granted. Basically saying, yeah, it's all true, so what? Go through that all the time. They move pursuant for a stay for the expedited decision and mandatory costs and fees. Yep, and we know they're doing that. They move pursuant that this should be dismissed for documentary evidence. And what is it? Well, there's a video published by Stuttering John Melendez, and he admits facts completely defeating his claims. He always knew and consented to Kate Meany recording their phone calls. B, he intended that Kate Meany would record the phone calls and intended they would be provided by the defendants, and that who would see, broadcast, publish, and comment on them. Kind of a big fucking deal there. And then they say fourth, you know, dismiss for lack of subject matter jurisdiction because counts 1, 2, and 3 had no basis in law. And once dismissed, the court no longer has jurisdiction over the case or the defendants. Now, this is a little different here, guys. This part right here, federally, you don't normally plead this because it's just, if there's no case, that's it. No, on a wall. Kate Meany is a comedian, I think. No, we're not talking about Kate Peter. We're not talking about Kate Peter. She's in Boston. This is not the same person. But here, this is interesting. You don't do this. Now, this might be a New York thing, but if I get the claims dismissed, I don't have to then say, well, judge, by the way, there's no subject matter jurisdiction. There's no claims, there's no case. But like I said, I'm not going to pick at that. I'm just commenting. I think that's interesting. You do that. Maybe this guy does belt and suspenders stuff. You know, I don't really know. I don't know yet. It says grounds for dismissal. So this affirmation organized the allegations of the First Amendment complaint to highlight the concessions made. It also incorporates judicial findings from plaintiffs' prior failed attempt to sue Sirius and XM with a misguided right of publicity cause of action. And I did know about this. Stuttering John tried to sue Sirius and XM Radio in the Southern District of New York. So he sued in federal court. Now, some of you might say, wait, how does a federal court case have any bearing on a state law case? And we'll get to that in a second here. They say the Southern District, meaning the Southern District of New York, the courthouse down in Manhattan, it's, SDNY, where everybody goes to get indicted by the feds, dismisses claims, and the Second Circuit upheld the dismissal of prejudice. The Second Circuit Court of Appeals. So, one step below SCOTUS. The plaintiff should have known better. He did not. Sounds like, from what I understand about Stuttering John, that's very much his, he should have known better. He did not. You could put that on his tombstone. He is again tilting toward the proverbial windmill with more improper right or publicity claims. Worse, the documentary evidence establishes those claims are based on knowingly false allegations, which sounds like Stuttering John's a vexatious litigant. KLF says these are Massapequa people. Oh, KLF says Stuttering John's nephew used to try to hit on me all the time. Creep literally followed me home from a bar. So they say first, and this was here where I was a little, like I said, as a Florida resident, and Stuttering John is a Florida resident, he could not bring New York right of publicity claims. Now, he knew this because in the Sirius XM case, he admitted the law of his state of residence applied, which was then California and not New York. Now, it might, and this is where I don't know New York's conflict of laws issues, but remember, it's just like the Nick Rekieta and Montegraph case. And Nick and his attorneys argued and made the argument, well, which state's laws apply? Because at the time, Monty sued, and it sounded like Colorado, because Monty had lived in Colorado at the time, and Nick lived in Minnesota. So whose laws apply? Because you could sue somebody in Minnesota based on a Colorado right of action, and have a Minnesota judge apply Colorado law. It's called a conflict of laws issue. It happens more often than you think. And in law school, I've talked about this before, there are classes on this, like how do you pick the right laws? Whose applies, who's in control? So it sounds like they're making the argument that that's not the case, and he knew better because of his failed federal case. They argue the common law or publicity adjacent claims are preempted by New York civil laws, and they say they must be dismissed with prejudice because they do not exist under New York law, which is an interesting way of putting it, that these don't exist. It's not even saying, oh, these are without merit. It's just saying these don't exist. You're like, wow. And remember, this is the New York civil rights law, and the way New York organizes stuff, they have all kinds of things there. And hold on here, chat. What the heck am I looking for? Gets a little annoying once in a while. Hold on, chat. Okay. From here, all counts in the fact depend upon Stuttering John's allegations that a non-party, Kate Meany, illegally and surreptitiously, remember, that means basically covertly, recorded the phone calls, gave the recordings to the defendants, and the defendants published them. Because this motion is also made pursuant to the motions to dismiss, and because 3211G requires affidavits, the defendants submit documentary evidence. The Stuttering John video published last year. In that 3-minute video, he defeats every claim, and he openly admits and actually insists that he knew, consented to, and intended that the phone calls would be recorded, given to the defendants, and the defendants would publish them. So they point out this entire thing fails as a result of his own video. Well, I think it fails partially, but I think what, he could make the argument of, and I could see this saying, the couch thing, like, he might, I don't know if that'll, like, it's not going to survive past Discovery, but I could see him limping across the finish line with that for right now. But yes, I'd say not the entire, but most of the First Amendment complaint fails as a result. Further, the video establishes that dismissal and cost are appropriate. And, these knowingly false allegations expose him to harsher consequences and sanctions, which once again, he could be monetarily sanctioned for putting bullshit claims out there. He could be fined by the court and sanctioned by the court. I think the vexatious litigant one's a good option, meaning you're not allowed to send stuff in anymore until you give it to us first and we approve it. Now, what is this video? So the video here, it's very, very interesting, you guys. Here's this video. Let me know if you guys can't hear this at all.
Today is December 16th. Here is my calendar.
I was about to say, the way you start, when I first saw this, I'm like, you're not even looking at the right thing, you dummy. But okay, December 2024.
That's the date, December 16th. Now I turn this around. All right, forget this. All right, forget this. All right, that's the date. All right, why am I
like a true fucking boomer? How do I fix this? Oh, fuck it.
Doing this? Because I've been talking to Kate Meany. I know she's taping me. We've known since the beginning. I'm trying to feed as much nonsense as possible and will continue to do it until she hands it over to Lady K or the shit layer or one of these fucking losers. But I'm letting you know for sure what the date is because I don't want these people to say, oh, John didn't know. I knew from day one. Because if someone's going to troll you, they're going to always troll you. So right now, I'll show you another way I can prove what date it is. Now we're.
I mean, this is very much a Dark Side Phil, PPP Keto Casino thing. Like, I knew they were gonna snake me all along, so this is Stuttering John saying this was all a work. No, it is you who've been trolled. That's literally what he's doing right now. I'm trolling you guys. I'm double trolling you. You don't understand. Coke Fairy says showing a calendar does not prove it's the date recorded. Correct. But remember, Stuttering John acknowledges the date this stuff happened. And now there's corroborating video of him saying this stuff happened. So that's good enough. It's good enough. It'll work there, yes. The Stuttering King Snake, yes. Yes. He's a loser. He's drunk. Although, to be fair, that's Phil too. So, fuck, that doesn't work. So, yes, we've been Speckledorfed, yes.
Around my hard rock. This is my hard rock betting site.
Gotta love the Michelob Ultra in the corner there. Man of class along with the Mountain Dew. Nothing wrong with some Mountain Dew.
They're going to send me a code. And I'm going to
also, I mean, really?
Code.
This is your, like, I'm not trying to A-log Stuttering John here, but you know that fucking Karl and fucking Shuli and all these people are just going to be like, oh my God, what is this? And it's really hard not to look at that. Yes, he's watching his carbs. Yes, he's doing better job of it than me. But I do appreciate him. I do appreciate him drinking. Michelob Ultra is not bad stuff. At least he's not. He normally drinks Coors Light, from what I understand. That's his other favorite thing. Which nothing wrong with Coors Light. Myself, I drink Budweiser. But yeah, he's got all that Howard Stern money. He can afford some Michelob Ultras. Like hoity-toity. Like keep that pinky up, King. But they're gonna A-log the shit out of him for this. So I just don't know why you would show it this because, yeah, whatever. Remember, this is him he's trolling everyone else. So here we go. Let's keep going.
And I'm going to open it. There it is. Nice.
He said, enter your code. Is it going to be like Rich Voss and type in Comic 360? He give his fucking bank information away.
Now, look at my live bets. My live bets right here. Let's see. Where are my bets? Not there.
No.
Should have my bets.
I don't care unless he's betting show bets on Greyhounds. Otherwise, you're not really. That's like I said, chat. That's how you know you're a degenerate gambler, when you're doing show bets at the dog track.
Where's my history? Let's see. History right here. Bet history right now. You see, I got Justin Jefferson, Bears versus the Vikings to score. I got.
You know, I'm showing that. In the meantime, we're just staring at this pile of beer cans and the insurer, but he's old. He's old. And then I don't know what those pills are, but like, this looks like a fucking, like what Max Payne's fucking desk would look like if he was, you know, live streaming during a video game.
The over on the Falcons-Raiders game. I took the Falcons. I took the Vikings. Over 44 on the Vikings. And I do want to do another bet, which I'll put down right now, which will be, now I'm going to bet anytime TD, and I'm going to stay on Aaron Jones. So there it is. I'll bet $5, 5 large, and wunderbar. So now we know it is today. It is Monday night. Well, Monday afternoon, December 16th. So when she decides to release this tapes, and I'm telling her everything, I want to bang her on top of the Eiffel Tower, anything I could think of. So there you have it.
Some glossy ass, some bloodshot eyes there, man. Oh, buddy. Oh, buddy.
So, you know, I'll keep this going today.
Are those eyes glossy, or is he just, did he just get done crying? I don't know. You be the judge.
If I talk to her, I'm going to say that I got hired I have an interview at a TV station for $80K a year, and I got an interview with a radio station. That's the new one I'll do today. Thank you.
So he's like, I'm going to pull the Aaron Imholt. I got radio gigs coming in. We'll see how that plays out for you, Stuttering John.
I also have it on text of me saying, I know you're taping me. That I could prove as well. Thank you.
Okay. So now we know his entire complaint is full of shit. And now we lost all the damn things. God damn it. So. All right, let's keep going back. Where were we? Okay, yeah, the false allegations and, you know, the sanctions he should face. I think he should be sanctioned. And his attorneys, remember, as an attorney, you have an obligation of due diligence to make sure this stuff can at least pass a straight face test. So, there's harsh consequences of sanctions. Should happen. And it says the court need not look beyond the four corners for these defenses. The First Amendment complaint pleads them. So they request a stay of all proceedings. I mean, once again, you filed a motion to dismiss. Like, I think this should take care of it. You know, they want a quick decision and they want a motion to dismiss. So they knew he couldn't bring these claims. Now, why do they know that he couldn't bring these claims? They discuss in the memorandum, it's absolutely and indisputably the case that an individual who does not reside in New York cannot bring a claim under the New York civil rights laws, and that's where the right to publicity is. And they just said that should be dismissed, and that's because he had already his case against XM and Sirius Radio. They say counts 2 and 3 must be dismissed because it's also preempted those causes of action. And it says count 2 alleges the cause of action for misappropriation. And they point out spelling error in the original fact. And this is how you act like an asshole to other parties. You just you quote them with their misspellings and you just say, they said that, not me. And they say, even if count 3 were permissible cause of action, it is not. Plaintiff failed to allege the elements of unjust enrichment. Then they also get to anti-slap. And I wasn't sure how anti-slap would work with these guys. That's why I didn't mention it. Wasn't sure how this would work there. But these are targeted for their public petition and participation. And it was commenced or continued without a basis in fact or law and cannot be supported. So because of that, you're entitled, if you win anti-slap, you're entitled to attorney's fees. So they point out that he was a public interest because he is himself a celebrity. They point out this is an action involving public petition and participation because Stuttering John, by his own allegations, is a celebrity and public figure. And once again, Stuttering John, I was on Leno, I was on Stern. And I'm admired by tens of millions of fans. Like, are you really? Are you really? You know, like Jim Rome says, man, self-gloss is pretty cringe. Self-gloss is pretty cringe. So they once again, Stuttering John admits multiple times he's a public figure. A well-known figure in comedy and broadcasting. Once again, citation needed. By virtue of his public career, Melendez's name and likeness carry significant fame and goodwill. Do they really? Do they really? Yes, I too am admired by thousands. The defendants capitalized on his fame. The fame amongst your notoriety amongst the Dabbleverse. So, but maybe it's, infamy more than fame. And once again, they sought from his fame. No, they sought to profit from his cringe. And they insist that Stuttering John's a primary subject of interest for the community of online listeners. That part's true. And here's where we get to the issues about Stuttering John's case. So in his dismissed right of publicity lawsuit, he insisted he is a celebrity comic. Well, is he a celebrity? I don't know. Is he a comic? Not from what I've heard. Who has been featured in movies, hosted shows, and starred in an off-Broadway production. Like, my left stutter? I don't know. Anyways, this was the case here. This is in the Southern District of New York. It was Melendez versus SiriusXM. And you could get the opinion order. And then it was ultimately dismissed. In the case, they alleged he was admired by tens of millions of fans. It's like they copy and paste this shit. They say the statements in the pleadings they constitute formal judicial admissions. And it's true. What you state can be used against you. You're stating in the open record. Separately, this court can take judicial notice, and this is where a court takes notice of something. And judicial notice just requires it to take notice without it being proven or provided. So, like, the court could take judicial notice that, today they could take judicial notice that September 1st, 2025 was a Monday. I don't have to prove that. You don't require it because it's either generally known or it's something like everybody knows that. Like I said, Your Honor, can you take judicial notice that 2 + 2 = 4? And the judge will look at it and say, okay, yes, 2 + 2 does equal 4. I don't have to prove it beyond a reasonable doubt. I don't have to bring in like a fucking mathematical expert to do that. But yes, the Southern District and their Second Circuit's findings, courts can take notice of these things. Then finally, collateral estoppel, and this is issue preclusion. And we're going to talk about what that is here. Bars the relitigation of an issue of fact or law that was litigated and determined in a prior proceeding and was necessary to the judgment. And Stuttering John had a full and fair opportunity to litigate the issue in the prior case. Now, what is collateral estoppel here? Collateral estoppel is the issue itself. So that legal issue in Stuttering John's case of suing under the New York civil rights law, and the right of publicity. Does it apply here? How does it apply? That has been settled. And you might say, wait, but it was done in federal court. You're right. It was done in federal court. But there is no right of publicity at the federal court level. There's no federal cause of action. When you sue in federal court, you're suing on state law claims. So He sued under New York civil rights law. And guys, we talk about this all the time. The federal courts will apply the state law to your claims. They do it all the time because there are no tort actions for this type of stuff at the federal level. Now, there are things where you could sue the police for like battery and you could sue them for false imprisonment, things like that. There's different things under the Federal Tort Claims Act where you're suing and it's federal kind of case law issues. But even then, they still rely on state claims to back them up. So that's why, yes, we're seeing a federal court case being used to point out issue preclusion. The issue's already been settled. And this is a good way to get it in. You're like, look, our courts have already decided you can't fucking do this. Specifically to you. You can't do this. It doesn't apply to you. Somebody did ask me, because somebody had read this yesterday, and they actually had DM'd me, and they said, but what about res judicata? Well, res judicata is the issue of the entire matter has been decided. So, for example, Cardi B's lawsuit we just covered. That is now barred by res judicata, meaning the security guard can't come back and sue Cardi B again saying you assaulted me. No, we're done. Case is over. Case is over. Can't bring it back. Res judicata bars that. So that's the difference between collateral estoppel and res judicata. Collateral estoppel focuses on like the one legal issue. Res judicata focuses on the entire case, meaning the basic theory of the case, the underlying cause of action is barred going forward. So the allegations are they weren't even allegations, they were him boasting. Remember, that was his attorney puffing up Stuttering John. And significant fame, his public career, and well-known comedy figure. He's established himself as a newsworthy subject and a person of public interest. That's why I'm covering this. He's a person of public interest. And Stuttering John can't meet the burden shifted to prove that his claims had a substantial basis. And it says plaintiff knew before he filed his complaint they had no substantial basis in law, nor were they supported by a substantial argument for an extension, modification, or reversal of an existing law. Meaning, okay, the law's against you, but I've got a really good argument why we should extend something. So either saying, wait, I should be covered under this law, extend it to cover me, modify the law to cover me, or, you know what, Judge, this law is unconstitutional or it's just improper and unfair. You should strike it down. You can bring a lawsuit under those theories. He doesn't have any of those. He's not making any of those. Notice he's relying on the existing law currently saying what it is fine. So they point out that he admits the calls were not surreptitiously recorded. And these are all, the causes of action are all premised upon, well, once again, I think, yeah, but I mean, part of it he could argue is the couch and the flyers things are separate. But yes, ultimately, if this fails, this really kills this case. That these phone calls were illegally and secretly recorded. All these are false, as the defendant admitted. The plaintiff admitted himself. The plaintiff actually recorded and published a video admitting he consented to the calls. Yes. And as Stringer Bell tells us,
Nigga, is you taking notes on a criminal fucking conspiracy? What the fuck is you thinking, man?
Yeah, why would you admit to all of this? Why would you admit to all of this? But once again, Stuttering John's a tool. So it makes sense. On December 16th of 2025, he publicly released a video admitting he always knew, consented, and attended that, and I think they mean 2024 there, by the way. That's meant to be 2024. That Kate Meany recorded his calls, would provide them to the defendants. Now, to be fair, though, I think this is a little bit like you're acknowledging you are the fucking, when he says those fucking losers, that's who you're referring to. You're like, yeah, that's us. Like, and then the defendants would publish it. They said, see the affidavit of Joseph Russo. We'll get to that affidavit. And actually, you know what? We'll go check that affidavit out real quick. We'll go check that affidavit out. Yeah, here we go. Let me see here. Is this going to bring it up? No, this doesn't come out. Yeah, I can't get it. Only got the video links. Let's see here. Is this gonna be it? No, they're all fucking Stuttering John's thing. Oh well. I thought I got it earlier. But no, no worries. We'll keep going. Goes on to talk about all of his nonsense here. He talks about it's December 16th. He spends much of the video establishing that it's in fact December 16th. And he says, once again, I know she's been taping me. We've known since the beginning. We'll continue doing until she hands it over to Lady K. And he explains who Lady K is a nickname for Karl to imply that Karl is feminine, which John considers an insult. This is none of the community who the broadcaster to cover. And then Shitwayer is a derogatory nickname for Shuli. I like how they specify that, but anyways, I'm letting you know for sure the date is because I don't want people to say, oh, John didn't know. He says, I knew from day one. He says, so right now, he talks about more proof. He goes through his NFL football bets to confirm the video is created on the day it is. He goes on to say, so when she releases the tapes and I'm telling her everything, I'll keep this going. I also had him texting me saying, I know you're taping me. That I could prove as well. Thank you. That'll be great in fucking Discovery, Stuttering John. So he admits to the video he has text message evidence. He knew the entire time that Kate Meany was taping their phone calls. I love how this part here, though, and I will give Karl's and Shuli's attorney fucking props for just, this is not something you could do. Like in Ohio, you're not allowed to do this like this. You would have to put it like right here in the middle. But I love they just focus on the pile of fucking beer cans in the corner. That is just, yeah. So it says that Stuttering John knew and consented and intended for this to happen. Stuttering John admitted that he knew, consent, and intended for these recordings to be provided to Karl and Shuli. And they say that to be embarrassed because Stuttering John tricked him into broadcasting his planted stories. And he says he was aware that they frequently broadcast a report on him. But he admits he continued to willingly be recorded to provide these to the defendants. And he establishes that conclusively he presented everything. He can send everything. The recordings, the defense playing them in public. Yeah. The video proves that the allegations of the illegal and non-consensual recordings are knowingly false. And they say this alone warrants dismissal. And it should. It should. You fucking lied. You're not allowed to do that. And once again, they failed to establish the phone calls were not recorded. Yeah. And they say, despite the knowingly false allegations, if he didn't admit to this, the amended complaint fails to allege the calls were even unlawfully recorded. And that's true. Remember, they tried to point out California is a two-party consent state. But remember, when you have parties of different states, it's the other parties somewhere else that's a one-party consent state, then it's okay. They never got around to establishing that issue. And they say, even in the light most favorable to Stuttering John, it fails to allege an unlawfully recorded phone call. They only allege that she recorded the calls and not the defendants. And that's true, too. Yes. They lied! And they say, second, it fails to allege facts sufficient to determine the calls recorded a two-party consent state. Yeah, and remember, we brought this up. Meany's recordings of the calls was legal under California law, but where was Kate at the time? And, once again, that attorney brought it up. Great minds think alike. Where the fuck was she at? You didn't prove any of that. And it says the federal government in 38 states allows surreptitious taping of a telephone conversation with one-party consent. And chat, remember, we went through what I still think the proper interpretation of these is meant to be a third-party interloper recording the calls. But regardless, this is how states do it now. And it says more than likely, statistically, she was likely in a one-party consent jurisdiction, which is a pretty good argument. Remember, guys, 38 states is 75%. When you talk about what you need for states to amend the Constitution, 3/4. Right now, that's 75%. 38 states is 75%. They say they could see that the defendants did not unlawfully record the calls. Yeah, someone else, not the defendants, did this. Just like with illegally leaked documents. As long as you didn't solicit it as a reporter, if you're given private documents, I didn't steal them, I didn't leak them, I'm just publishing what was given to me. You know, they obtained those recordings. You know, it doesn't say that Kate was in a, conspiracy with Karl and Shuli, that they have proof they were working together the whole time and she was doing their bidding. There's none of that. They're saying that Shuli procured them. How? How did he procure them? So it says only Kate recorded the phone calls. And they keep on going for this. And they say no liability for broadcasting illegal recordings. And this is correct. That even if they knew they'd been illegally obtained, it's not liable for disseminating recorded information because it's protected by the First Amendment. Just like the Pentagon Papers, you can leak military. If somebody steals military documents from the Pentagon and brings them to a reporter, the reporter can publish them. Like the Pentagon Papers. This is not brand new terrain. This is normal. And they talk about count 1 was improper because of the previously dismissed claim. And it talks about when he sued SiriusXM and the SDNY, he then knew the law of the state, that the law of the state of his residence, California, governed his claims and not the state law of New York. And although the Sirius case was brought in SDNY, plaintiff did not allege any causes of action under NYCRL 5051. And then in that case, Melendez agreed that California law applied to his claims. And the Second Circuit confirmed that he did not dispute the application of California law. And he didn't likewise do so in his appeal. So they established that Stuttering John knew he had to bring his right of claims in the state which he resided and not New York. Well, see, I don't know if he would be able to argue that New York law would apply or California law would apply if he sued in New York, but he also didn't sue where, this was all done in Rochester, New York, guys. And I think we talked about this before, but I think it's Monroe County, New York. I think it's wherever the hell Rochester is. But Stuttering John, for some weird fucking reason, remember, guys, he sued them down here in Manhattan instead of where DabbleCon happened up in Rochester. I mean, that's a couple-hour drive. Like, that's a couple hundred miles. Like, you can sue where the defendants live. That's not unacceptable. And you might say, well, wait, isn't Shuli a resident of Alabama or appears to be? Yes, but Shuli came up to Rochester for DabbleCon. So they were both in Monroe County, New York. That would be a place you could do it. The event itself happened where they aired these phone calls and they did all this stuff and all the gay shit with the couch that Stuttering John's freaking out about. They did it all in Rochester. So that would be the place you'd want to sue. Not down here anyway. And some of you would say, don't give Stuttering John ideas. I'm like, if that's what him and his attorney came up with, they're not smart enough to figure this shit out anyway. So he also knew that his claims may be preempted expressly or impliedly by federal copyright law. Which, plaintiff should have known counts 2 through 3 were preempted. They say they should have known these claims were preempted by New York civil rights law. And say he admits that public concern, comedy, and parody would exempt them from liability. He admits he's a public figure. The First Amendment complaint admits the use was comedic. Well, I don't know about that, but they say he's a comedian and that they admit it was a comedy event. Well, it could be a comedy event. And you could still commit a tort at a comedy event. Just because it's a comedy event, you can't just go, it's a comedy show. Quote such an Adam, and you're automatically protected. But yes, this does hint that the general idea is this is a comedy event. The cushions were presented as a comedic exhibit. Now, this is where they should say, we don't, but they clearly were not. They were meant to blah, 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 blah. They played significant portions, interspersing them with their own commentary and comedy segments. And this is where you could say, well, that doesn't alone mean it. But once again, they come back and point out they keep harping on it and they keep labeling what it was. Comedy event's a prank, bro. Oh, so they admit this was for ridicule. And yes, this is where we talked about this. They admit the distress and humiliation. You're allowed to humiliate people. You're allowed to bust their balls. That's allowed. The stunt was clearly intended to ridicule. Yes, you're allowed to do that. They displayed personal trash to ridicule them. Yes, so they understand that it was there. They held to scorn and ridicule, which you're allowed to do. And say ridicule is a synonym for satire. Yeah, but that's... Yeah, okay. And they say by conceding that the defendant's conduct was the purpose of ridicule, they admit the defendant's conduct was satire and therefore protected. And they also allege that they allege mockery, and mockery is newsworthy. Yeah, mocking somebody is a newsworthy thing. You could say, look at this fucking retard. That could be newsworthy. That could be newsworthy. So during the stream, they played an excerpts of the recordings of Stuttering John. They analyzed and mocked the content of these calls on air. You're allowed to do that, just like I mocked his video. The mockery of the plaintiff's public persona is newsworthy. Yeah, it can be. It's newsworthy to some people. Doesn't that be newsworthy to everyone? They say it's notable that the amended complaint alleges that either the defendants or some unidentified non-party co-host played excerpts. They actually allege that, and this is something I didn't catch before. The defendants might not have played all the excerpts at all. It might have been non-parties not named in the action. So they didn't include it, but that is a motion to dismiss because the failure of non-parties being included, that there's joinder issues. You know, you allege there's some John Does possibly. And, you know, his attorney brought this up. This was a good catch. I didn't see it at the time. This is a big thing here. There's other people out there that have not been included. Now, you might say, well, that's not what his attorney meant. Sure. But his attorney's really fucking sloppy. And if you're sloppy, this is what happens. That's why you're not supposed to be sloppy as an attorney. Be very specific with your words. Just like he maybe wasn't trying to acknowledge it was a comedy event. But he did by writing it that way, and the other party ran with it. So you need to be very specific in what you say and do. Excuse me. I thought I was going to sneeze there. And they say that once again, they claim it's the amended complaint claims it's premises claim on a legally incorrect premises its claim on a legally incorrect base that newsworthiness requires a traditional hard news purpose. That's not true. The content in question was not news reporting. That's not true at all. And it says nothing about bona fide news coverage. Once again, this becomes who do you get to say is a journalist? Who do you get to say is, you know, what's commentary, what's newsworthy? Might be for a lot of people. You know, he admits his notoriety. Yeah, trading on his fame and notoriety. He admits the entertainment exception to Section 51 applies. And he says that his voice and images were used for entertainment purposes. And they say the defendants are not as well-known commentators and content producers operating the same realm of entertainment and have frequently targeted Stuttering John. So he acknowledges his entertainment. They say, likewise, his name, likeness were exploited at this event to drive attendance and for entertainment purposes. Yeah. And remember, guys, they talk about what the stupid little flyers and the advertisements they had for Stuttering John. Obviously not meant to make him look flattering. It's not as though he's actually endorsing this. They say, during this 2-day event, the defendants once again exploited his persona as the main entertainment. Yeah. Yes. We're doing real dabble hours. Jeez. Well, we're getting through this, chat. We're getting through this here. And it says that the defendants, Karl and Shuli, acting as hosts, derived humor and content directly from Stuttering John's words and voice. Yeah. The question and content was salacious entertainment. Once again, the fact that salacious doesn't mean it's improper. That's what makes it entertainment. If it wasn't salacious, it'd be really fucking boring. As I said before, the salaciousness is what made it good. And they say, they continue talking about playing the recorded audio as live entertainment content to drive revenue. Yeah. Of course they're making money off this. They're allowed to. The use was purely commercial entertainment and self-promotion. Okay, so what? I mean, if this was all wrong, Howard Stern would have been run off the world and you would have been a nobody. Just saying, like Howard Stern did this and made all kinds of money off it. So they talk about the alleged profit and commercial use do not remove statutory and constitutional protections. I agree. The fact you can make money off satire doesn't mean it's not satire anymore. Even if you're motivated for profit, that doesn't mean anything. That doesn't mean anything. And they say because these were intended to and did promote business ventures, that it shouldn't be protected. And they point out that nowhere did they, and I pointed this out as well, guys. It wasn't saying Stuttering John, this is Stuttering John saying come to DabbleCon or endorsed by Stuttering John. No, they didn't directly sell or advertise for sale plaintiff's image or his voice recordings. Yeah. Wasn't like they used AI to make it sound like Stuttering John was saying one thing or another and, doing anything like that. No, they didn't do any of that. They just put his picture on a fucking flyer. And they say the fact that protected speech is commercialized or sold for profit does not remove its status as protected speech. And that's true. Just because you do it does not take care of that way. They talk about parody. It was done for the purpose of ridiculing Stuttering John, ridicule his satire. They mock the content in the calls. You're allowed to do that. You are allowed to do that. Let's go. Brandon says, Sean. I can do like jokes. Sean. I'm doing colonoscopy prep, but none of the water is coming out and I may explode. Do you have a comfort animal to display? Let me see if I can get him. Hey, Clyde. Come here, bud. Come here, Clyde. I hear the click-clacks. Come here, Bubba. Hi. Hello. Come here. Come on, Clyde. Come on. Oh, hi, Bubba. There you go. Took a running jump onto me. It's like, fat man, you're too fat. Aw. You guys got your Clyde sighting tonight. Yes, I love the green dildo. The WNBA approved regulation dildo. There you go, guys. Got your dog ASMR. Oh, what's wrong, Bubba? There you go, buddy. There you go. So the FAQ, and you almost call it a fag, Stuttering John probably is a fag. They admit several times the use of the plaintiff's voice and image was for comedic purposes. Yeah. And that's a comedic component of newsworthiness exceptions. Yeah, because, you're allowed to comment on things. They say that they admit the defendants are commentators. They are not as well-known commentators. Yes, they're not as cool as me. The event was sequel to a prior DabbleCon, was aimed at listeners who dabble in commentary. And this is where, once again, even though that's not what the DabbleCon means, the Dabbleverse is not about dabbling in commentary, if you make a statement, the other party can run away with it. And right now, Karl and Shuli are using that against him. They try to be cute and hide the issue here. Buddy, I got to put you down. I need to kind of both hands to scroll and operate here, okay? Can you give an a woo? Can you give an a woo real quick? Good boy. Aww. Mwah. I'm going to set you down now, okay? Here you go. There you go, Bubba. Here, you get one for the road. There you go. All right. Okay. So, but this is the problem. They misstate what the DabbleCon and the Dabbleverse is all about. But Karl and Shuli's attorney brilliantly is running with it. So it's not a bad idea. Not a bad idea. The event was at a ticketed gathering of fans held at a commercial venue, where the defendants, along with other people, performed and presented material to a live audience. The primary draw not being their commentary, but Stuttering John's name, likeness, and illegally recorded voice. Well, that's not. They admit that they intersperse the recordings with their own commentary and comedy segments. Yeah, I mean, it's right here. It's all laid out. And they derived humor and content directly from his words and voice. Here's the problem. Stuttering John admits it's all commentary and a work himself. So, yeah. They also admit that Karl and Shuli interwove commentary to some extent on the reproductions of Stuttering John's voice and image. And they interwove things on their show, and elements were built entirely on unauthorized reproductions of his persona and are not transformative, but they did it. But they point out here that this is just all garbage here. News broadcasts are not necessary. This was not part of any news broadcast. I mean, technically it could be considered one. I mean, this is a news broadcast. I'm commenting on something of newsworthy value. It's not like you need like do. It's like, good evening. News, like, you don't have to do it that way. You don't have to do it that way. You guys need that Clyde break. All right. So they say they admit the use is transformative. And they point out that they intersperse these with commentary and comedy segments related to Stuttering John. Yeah, and remember, transformation is very critical there. Yeah, I'm a blogger, yes. They fail to allege entities that can be sued. And this is the whole thing here, guys, about Russell Greer. The Shuli Network and who are these podcasts they haven't shown their legal entities that could sue or be sued. Remember, he's basically suing YouTube pages. You can't sue a YouTube page. Remember what I said? You can sue whatever LLC holds the page. So, for example, potentially criminal. You can't sue that page. You could sue Martin Media Ohio LLC. That's something you could sue because that's the entity that owns and controls the YouTube channel. But you can't just sue the YouTube channel. Like, it doesn't work. So these allegations do not allege a defendant who could sue or be sued, or the location or domicile or citizenship of these entities. It's true. Can't be done. And the statute of limitations on a single publication rule. And they claim this occurred and was no later than June 2024. And this is unique for New York. Under a single publication rule, you fail to plead facts to show the statute of limitations, which was 1 year, has not expired. And we are well past that. And if we go back to when did Stuttering John file this? Well, the news about this came out August 16th. So we're well past the 1 year point. It's going to be a big problem. And once again, this is an attorney issue. As an attorney, you have to do due diligence. What are the liabilities? What are the timelines? That says for the purposes of preservation, defendants also assert the defense of statute of limitations and invoke it under the rules of civil procedure. And you have to remember, if you don't invoke that defense, it's waived. And statute of limitations is one that could be waived if you don't do it right. And I see the video disposes of the claims. Once again, yes, his video takes care of this. It's dead. And he establishes the only basis for subject matter jurisdiction are the New York civil rights laws. And they point out he's a Florida resident. He can't bring it, which that kind of defeats all the issues there. There's no common law right of publicity or privacy, and that the same preemption of common law rights also preempt unjust enrichment claims. And then this is the one we talked about, chat. The permission's not needed to take discarded trash. And this is, remember we said, the police could have taken his couch and they wouldn't have needed a warrant. It was trash. So even if the police could take it without a search warrant, a private citizen could take it of their own volition at that point. You know, and it's, yes, from his discarded trash, which is correct. You know, they obtained, they trespassed, and it's like, no, they didn't, but discarded items and his trash after they threw away a couch. It is discarded property. But more important, removal of the garbage doesn't constitute theft or larceny, because once it's discarded, it's no longer your property. The plaintiff should have expected that Snoops or other strangers would take it. Yeah, remember, he's a celebrity. Celebrities don't just throw their shit out willy-nilly. They dispose of it discreetly. It's even like Xi Jinping and Vladimir Putin, but also Donald Trump. When they go on foreign visits, like when they take a shit, that is not, you don't just flush it down the toilet, because intelligence services will take those, like they'll literally take the shit and analyze it. They can determine, you know, it's like you guys have seen that company that used to be like, if you shit in a bag and put it in the box, we'll tell you if you have colon cancer. You can determine a lot of things through somebody's crap. You can determine a lot of things based on someone's garbage. You know, a lot of their habits, things like that. So, yes, the idea that you didn't know about Snoops, you're supposed to be Mr. Big Time Celebrity. And it said it all should be supported that there's no evidence of the defendants who live thousands of miles away from California. And this is where they acknowledged Karl was in New York and Shuli was in Alabama. According to the complaint itself, personally took the trash after he discarded it. Yeah. Somebody brought it to him. Somebody brought it to him. Then it says the allegations of malice and wanton conduct immaterial to privacy claims. Yeah. And this is here. These are immaterial. This is very much Russell Greer tier level things. They're just being mean and the intent to harm. You know, they're willful and wanton. They're just picking on me. This is Russell Greer type stuff. You know, the willful and wanton nature, and it's willful and malicious. You know, adding terms that you have not changed the nature of the complaint. It's an invasion of privacy. And as stated previously, you cannot state a claim and cause of action under those facts. And they also established that he did not endorse the events. And it says that he did not endorse DabbleCon 2, Dabble House, or any other program that the defendants offered. And they say the implication the plaintiff endorsed him is a common component of right of publicity. Remember, guys, going back to this thing here, if this had been, you know, Stuttering John recommends, or come here, this is going to be great, or they did an AI saying, hi, I'm Stuttering John, come to DabbleCon 2, the Deuce. That would be a right of publicity issue. But just showing a picture doesn't. And remember, these pictures are not flattering of Stuttering John. And they say even if he didn't endorse these events, he unquestionably consented to his phone calls being recorded and those recordings being broadcast. Yeah. So once again, his video, his statement that was found and produced clearly shows he was consenting to them doing something with it. Maybe only just airing it on the show. Maybe he didn't expect to be part of DabbleCon, but you clearly gave consent. You'd never revoked that consent. And even then, if you tried to revoke it, I don't think you could. So once you consented to people fucking with you on these phone calls, game's over. Game's over. You know, the failure to name a proper party. And once again, this is another issue about the Shuli network. You know, and then Karl's thing here. And they point out the plaintiff has failed to plead or name entities that can sue or be sued. And this is dated August 29th by Savalos and Wong LLP. People out of New York. And that's how you take care of that. And they say an affirmation of word count. They point out here that this does not exceed 7,000 words. The number of words in this document is 5,679. Exclusive of the caption, table of contents, table of authorities, and signature block. And that's, and some of you guys might say, well, wait, why do you have to use or explain that part? We're lawyers. Like everything, it's you know, you get melanated about every little rule. Well, what parts count? And this doesn't count either. This is all blocked off. So affirmation of service to Tabor Benedict Esquire and Sagar Sharma. Star! The attorneys for Stuttering John. So there you go. That is kind of what's going on with Stuttering John here, guys. And this is pretty effective. This is it's like watching Boondock Saints, guys, you know. Shitty shooting, good. He says, good shooting. Yeah, he does. Shitty shooting, good shooting. You know, shitty lawyering. This is good lawyering. This is actually very well done. You know, you poke and you prod and you get your kicks in where you can. But it's very well done. It lays out what you're attacking, how you're attacking it. And, you know, once again, you get your kicks in there and, you know, kick him while he's down. And, you know, now I know people are claiming that the Vince the lawyer guy might be behind this. I guess, maybe. I don't know. I don't know if that's I don't know how that would be correct or not, but I'll just leave that be. I'll just leave that be. Now, I know some of you guys are saying, why did we go through that and not the actual memorandum? I think this is far better. I think this is far, far better. This is a little easier to digest and break it down. I think it makes more sense this way. Because if you wanted to, actually, hold on here. Where is... No. Oh, God, what was I going to say? You know, I'm not going to go back through what they've already done. I know some of you might have said, well, would that have helped? I'm like, not really, because Stuttering John's complaint's bullshit. Cool channel names is you can lie to the court all day making affirmations. Yes. Yes, clearly this was written by the great legal scholar Frank White. This is a great example of that. Good lawyering versus shit lawyering. You know, Frank White couldn't have fucking written this in a month of Sundays. So, just something to take into consideration there. Now, what's going to happen? I'm sure that Stuttering John's going to respond and say, nuh-uh, nuh-uh. No, I didn't do that. No. Or they're going to say, well, it's different. Now, will this survive? I mean, it's lolcow on lolcow violence. So is this going to drag on for a bit? Probably. They're lolcows, all involved. And Stuttering John's the biggest lolcow there. So it's going to limp across the finish. Like, it's going to survive to get killed later. I get the feeling. I would think and I would hope the court kills it right off the bat, but I don't think that's going to happen. They're going to basically, it's probably going to survive this. And then I mean, I don't know why. I'd like to think the court would just kill it right away, but I could see the court saying, I'm going to let this survive a little bit, because courts do all kinds of retarded shit when lolcows are involved. But no, this should be dismissed. Stuttering John and his attorney should be sanctioned. And, you know, Stuttering John should be a vexatious litigant. I mean, this is a bullshit case. Absolutely bullshit case. So, oh, hold on here. What's my... So let me see here. Nick doesn't like Frank White for his legal abilities, more for his gay outreach. Yeah, well, I don't know if this is a situation where, like I said, is this kind of like where, you know, people are, because I've read some things that they're saying this Vince the lawyer guy is basically puppeting John's attorneys and John, I guess, but it kind of sounds almost in the same way Nick puppets Frank White. Don't really know for sure, though. Don't know for sure. All right. So getting onto the comments here, Greencap says, could Sean be any more gay? I mean, I could. I don't want to be. I don't intend to be. So, not intending to do it that way. And then Maddie B says, you know, you can go to, don't go to potentiallycriminal.com. That's right, guys. Go to, where is potentiallycriminal.com. Yeah, it says put together. You can learn about all the things that are there, all the different kinds of things. You know, is it Sean's birthday? Well, not anymore. 340 days till the next birthday. So, And there's still some comments here down here. So Honore de Balzac says, enjoy your birthday, you goofy goober. Matthew Harris says, N. I'm surprised you could get internet in jail or the Nut Hut, Mr. Harris, but thank you. Thank you. There's stuff about me. There's Chef Clyde. He's so cute. The mods, future Mrs. Martin 2.0, the best. The bestest ever. But along with Chef Clyde, you guys could be involved in the Chef Clyde sandwich stacking competitions. You can go to potentiallycriminal.com/sandwich and you can do this and join yourself in. Maddie has retooled things. They work pretty good. And, we'll just play a little game real quick. I'll be like DSP. Nothing I could do. Nothing I could do. What? Why is it not working? Why is it not working? I'm going the wrong way. I grazed the wrong button. Oh no. Chat, we're gonna have to pause here. Chat, until I see some support, we're not gonna keep playing this. So until we get more support, we're not gonna keep playing. But no, guys, really, Maddie, once again, thank you for putting that together. It's absolutely hilarious. We'll play again in a minute here once we get towards the end. More Chip want. Well, actually, Luke is saying, yeah, Stuttering John's basically saying, you can't shit my pants. I already shit my pants. Door Goes Open says he got downgraded to Busch Light. There is nothing wrong with Busch Light, okay? There is nothing wrong with Busch Light, sir. A nice cold Busch Light is a great thing at the end of a hot day. Let me tell you what. You could sit there, you'll feel like a king. And you open up, it's like, Busch. Salvatore says, show bets should pay more because who the fuck can predict what a dog is going to do or come in third? To be fair, I'll tell you guys, I think I mentioned this before, but it's been a while. 2.0, I've taken her to, we went out to, for our anniversary, or for our 1 year anniversary. And there's the middle of COVID. We went to, there wasn't really anywhere to go. So we went to like Mountaineer Casino because there was nowhere else to go. We went to the OTB and she started betting on shit and she was picking fucking horses. And I was like, I have an idea. Cause you're a Mountaineer Casino in West Virginia. We drove down to Wheeling Casino and Wheeling Casino has a dog track and she was picking fucking dogs. She was picking winners. I got her the program and she's just pick. She's like, go place these bets. And she, we didn't come away with a ton of money, but she was good at that. She could pick winners. She knows the ponies and she knows the puppers. So let me tell you. Jay Wolfenstein's been a member for 12 months. Thank you. Thank you for that support. Says Dabbleverse, I learned something and now I'm dumber. Well, that's generally the case when you learn anything about the internet and internet lore, to be fair. Barlow says, Stuttering John doesn't stop drinking long enough to be hungover. I mean, all those those fucking racks of Michelob Ultra on the floor. Yeah, it looks like it. Jay Wolfenstein again for $2. Says, hi, Shuli. Hi, Karl. Hi, Sean, I guess. Thank you. Luke says in one of the issues in the Monk Tonk appeal is a judicial notice issue. Yeah, that is. I actually think I'm gonna think about reaching out to the happily angry lawyer guy, Jim Robichard, I think is how you pronounce his last name. See if he'd like to come on and talk about that. That guy's doing a lot of post conviction work for those guys in the YSL verse. Erica Thorpe says for $10. Sean, I spoke to an attorney today. He was impressed by my knowledge of the law. I told him, thanks. I watched Potentially Criminal. Biatch! Well, I'm glad you were able to explain things to them. And I'm glad that they were impressed by that. But, you guys are all smart people. I just tell you the things. You guys retain the info and apply the info. That makes you the smart ones. Schneebly is saying the argument that a litigant knew his legal arguments are false is a stretch. It's sometimes it can be, but this one I would argue it's not. He sued for the basically exact same fucking thing. There's no rule against taking internally consistent legal positions in different cases. This happens all the time. It's not a different position. He's basically taking the same position again. But this is where Schneebly, you run to the issue of he knew and he knowingly had already said I know this is all bullshit and I'm playing along with it. So this idea that, that ruins the good faith argument you may have. Stuttering John's videos ruin that good faith argument, in my opinion. So he knows he's been shut out in court. He knows these are bad arguments. More important, you think his attorneys would just make sure, like, oh, by golly, oy vey, we've got our, famous client. I might want to do my due diligence on their legal history. So I think that ruins the good faith arguments that Stuttering John may try to assert. But it's a very good question, and kind of like comment on that. If none of that existed, I'd say, yeah, it's fine for him to argue this. I really would. Hex says, Hexy or Hex 1986 says, hilarious that a guy who got famous on the Howard Stern show is getting butthurt about salacious content. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's all Howard Stern was like, asking women to whip their titties out on set. And then asking really awkward questions of him and shit. Like, that's all Howard Stern did. Brandon, we already did this one, but yes, thank you. Justin Smith says, wait, so my lawsuit against a potentially criminal in Ohio isn't going to work? Nope. Sadly, no. And then Extremely Happy Simmer for $5 says, of course she could pick winners. She picked you. Aww. I still don't understand how she picked me, but hey, like they say, love is blind. Love is blind. So, washing yourself is not deductible. Bob says, can I sue Del Monte for, I got a metal sliver in my thumb from a can of peas? Probably not. Are we going to do a model stream tonight? Yes, we are. We are going to. Yes, we are going to. Stephen Cooper says, fun fact, the strip club just down the road from the Mountaineer Casino is for sale. Yeah, and you know what? Having been to many a strip club, that's not a strip, that's a strip club you'd want to take a gun into. Strip clubs in the hood are dangerous, but also strip clubs in coon-ass territory, dangerous too. I'm sure that one's not the best. But yes, we'll be working on stuff tonight, Sweet Tooth, 100%. It's only 9:00, so yeah, we're definitely gonna do that. And I know the casino's going, so I'll watch them. Coke Fairy says, how much for what? How much for? Will Clyde hold a memorial stream for Buddha? Yeah, guys, if you don't know, Count Dankula's pug, Buddha, the one who got famous for being able to throw up a Roman. Remember his dog who could throw up a Roman? Actually, wrong. Well, yeah, this is my right hand, but it doesn't look right here. So yes, the dog who could throw up the Romans and got Count Dankula facing jail time through the Scottish government and kind of launched his career. Actually, it did launch his career. Buddha, his health failed and he ended up having to put his dog down, which is really fucking sad. Really sad having to put a dog down. And I mean, being through a lot with a dog, that's one thing, but he went through so much with that dog. He faced possibly going to prison. He spent time in jail because of that dog. He got propelled to international fame with that dog and notoriety with that dog. Him and that dog had been through thick and thin, and he had to put his buddy down. Really sucks. Really sucks. So, F's in the chats for Buddha. Yes, pugs are born in failing health. Yes, that too. Very true. Yeah, and Dankula just went through divorce. Yeah, but that's been a little while, though. It sounds like he's moved on from that. Sounds like he's getting his fill of trannies at this point, which he says he doesn't do, but then there's Owen Schroyer leaving InfoWars. That was kind of a little awkward to see that. That was a little awkward to see that break out on Twitter today. But yeah, him and Alex Jones, I guess the globalists have penetrated InfoWars. The fractures have shown, chat. The globalists have taken Owen Schroyer and peeled him off. There's nothing to stop it now. The globalists got their dub today, chat. You got another thing coming, globalist. With your expertise in strip clubs, have you seen the Akron strip club? I mean, there's more than one strip club in Akron, so I don't know which one. No, but I've not been to strip clubs in Akron. I knew someone fucking with Cyrax called it and ordered him a stripper one, and that place is a shithole. I mean, it's Akron, Ohio. Like, I'm not surprised that strip clubs in Akron, Ohio are absolutely fucking ratchet. Like, it's like, but yes, thank you, Maddie Daddy. Yes, Johan's correct. He started and ended a marriage with that dog. Yes. A pretty long marriage. Had a couple of kids. Yeah. Yep. Yes. Justin Smith says, the globalists are coming from in the house. Oh. Two grifters on your timeline way too much. Hey, they're yeah. They haven't been double dosing your super male vitality, yeah. Me and Cyrax should go, God almighty. I want to sit next to him and catch all his fucking mites or whatever, his super posiloaded scabies or whatever he's got. I wouldn't want to sit near Cyrax. So yeah, he got boofed by the technocrats. All right, guys. All right. That is it for us. So we're going to wrap this up. Like I said, I know well, at least 200 of you were here. I understand this may not have been what you guys were interested in. I was interested in it for the legal work involved, not necessarily the parties involved. But that is what we'll do tomorrow night. We've got the Thursday show. Remember, guys, Thursday night, 9:30. Got a lot to talk about. Shiloh Hendricks, bunch of other people. Ryan Routh, the guy who tried to kill Trump at the golf course, is challenging Trump to golf game for his freedom. Crime in DC has disappeared. People are freaking out about this law in Texas, and it's not a war on anime. It's a war on AI generated child porn. Child porn. So Destiny's going to be like, fuck. Another loss for Destiny. We got some other stuff that's coming out there, and some other things we'll be getting into, and that's tomorrow night at 9:30 Eastern. This weekend, we will finish up the Michael Proctor hearing for the Massachusetts State Police because there was a second day of it. And I believe that he actually testified for a little bit of it, I think. So we'll cover that on probably Saturday. Friday, we will probably do some updates, I think, with Russell Greer. Do an update or two with Destiny. And then, not sure what else, but we'll figure something out there. Yes, Harrison Smith will not desert me for the globalists. Yes. Harrison Smith is not afraid of the globalists. He will fight them. And yes, Johan says, what about the child porn? All right, chat. I will see you guys shortly. Actually, hold on here. We'll set this up now. We're going to get the howitzer all glued up tonight. We're going to get that ready and have it done. And now that we've got the guys put together, we're going to work on trying to paint them. Because painting, these guys have a lot of flesh tone on them. And I've seen a couple different ways these miniature guys are painting it. We're going to try it. So we are going to do that here. And guys, remember, it's going to be over at the model channel. I know you guys have the links out there. So and we're also going to do some Blackhawk work. We're going to work on the Blackhawk because we got black paint. We could start airbrushing that up and get it ready. So right now it's 9:10. We're going to go 9. We'll just set it 9:30 so I got some time to get ready. All right, chat. There we go. And that is it for us. You'll still be late. Maybe I will. Maybe I will. Maybe I won't. Maybe I'll be on time just to spite you and make you suffer. Maybe I'll do that. Maybe I'll do that, chat. What better way to motivate somebody than pure spite? All right, chat. So I will see you guys tomorrow for the show. But remember, until next time, just because you did it does not mean you're guilty. Although Stuttering John's guilty of bullshit. And Hope the court sanctions the fuck out of him for this because he needs to suffer. Needs to suffer. Good night, chat. Take care.
Weapons, blacksmithing, and models of planes, esoteric works, and even some trains. Much merriment had while drinking White Claws, tips on hunting, and even talking the law. Whatever you do, just don't talk to cops, even when they nab you on illegal stops. Just 'cause you did it doesn't mean you're guilty, but please talk to a local attorney. Was that the fat guy that Kaden yelled at? Why, yes it was. He even knows he's fat.